Hello friends, welcome to Biju Guy's Teaching Cafe. I hope all of you are happy at home, staying safe. We will meet in the classroom very soon when the COVID pandemic is over and we have discovered some kind of vaccines. So friends, once more welcome to this YouTube video lecture. So the title of this lecture is Political System. Friends, you know that behavioralism, as we have discussed in the previous YouTube video lecture, was basically an intellectual movement. It was a mood, it was a type of revolution against the ancient methodologies that political science developed in order to conduct political analysis. So, behavioralism tried to make political science more look like a natural science. So, it gave more emphasis to methods, perspectives, and it tried to bring in more theoretical consciousness to studies in politics, and it believed that political science lacked a systematic worldview, an empirical theory. It lacked a systematic inquiry into the problem under hand, which required data from the field. So, political behavioralism tried to bring studies more close to the issue in hand. So, in a sense, behavioralism believed that political science lacked a systematic and empirical worldview. So, it tried to propose or advance methods of politics in which political scientists can conduct studies in a more systematic way, and that is closer to reality. So, methods here we mean that how you collect data from the field, how you collect data by using some methods or techniques which give you the correct data. So, if you have good method, your prediction, your studies will be accurate. That is what behavioralism believed. So, methods were meant to make prediction possible and political analysis more relevant to the study. So, it tried to propose techniques and tools that help political scientists for the collection of data more relevant to their study. So friends, over the years, that is between 1950s and 70s, political scientists who were attached to the movement called behavioralism tried to develop many tools of political analysis, many models of analysis such as game theory, decision making theory, communication theory, structural functionalism, system model, input output model. Some of them are very interesting, some of them are very complicated, some of the models were also so much baffling. So here we have a new technique. In this lecture we are going to understand a new technique developed in the food lines of behavioralism. It's an interesting analytical model called political system. So this idea was developed from the system model, about which we have already conducted a YouTube video lecture. So with the title General System Theory. So let us know the background of political system. Friends, two anthropological studies made by Radcliffe Brown and Bronislaw Malinowski and a sociological study conducted by Auguste Comte created tremendous impact upon the analytical side of political sciences. That is, it had brought about some profound impact in the way in which political science, generally social science, conduct studies. So we have already discussed in the previous video lecture. So the anthropological and sociological studies, as we have discussed in the previous YouTube lecture, greatly emphasize that the study of society and the study of the state cannot be separated. That if you are going to study society, you should also study the state, and if you are going to study state, you should also study the society, because society and state are interlinked, interconnected, interdependent. So one will not exist without the other. So that way these anthropologists like Radcliffe Brown and Bronislaw Malinowski, again the sociological study of the famous Auguste Comte, believed that you cannot separate society and state in your studies. Both state and society are closely linked, they believe. So they believe that when you study family or race or culture or language or some kind of violence in the society, this issue that you are going to study should be viewed in the totality, that there comes religion, laws, state, culture, so many things will come into your study. All these elements should be considered when you go for a study in society. So this that is, your study must be connected with so many other social institutions or so many other components of social system. So these institutions must also be empirically tested, that when you go to study the society, the components such as religion, language, your law, state, culture, all these social institutions should be empirically tested also. If you are not able to empirically test these components, your study can never be scientifically provable. Scientifically it cannot be validated. So studies in culture, family, etc. should be empirical also. That is what these writers, these scholars, these famous sociologists and anthropologists have observed. The scholars and their studies were executed in a broad premises of the system theory, as we have discussed in the previous YouTube lecture. So that is, parts make up the whole system. Like human body has several parts, right? So these studies have also pointed out that any society as well as the state must be viewed in their totality. So just like food chain, football match or computer system, you have to analyze components within the broad premises of system worldview. They called for a sound methodological sophistication. That is, Radcliffe Brown and Bronislaw Malinowski, along with the studies of Auguste Comte, had the view that methodological sophistication is very important when you go for studies in society. You have to make studies in society more like studies in natural science or more like studies in a scientific laboratory. So why they believed that methodological sophistication is very important? Friends, system theory assumes that political science lacks solid and high level of theoretical consciousness. It lacks sound theory about society. It lacks a solid methodology by which you can collect data, analyze data, interpret data and propose theories which has too much connection with the ground realities of the problem you study. So David, so or in a sense, system theory was an attempt to make political science more interdisciplinary, empirical, scientifically provable on the footlines of behavioral movement. That is what system theory attempted in political science. So David Easton, Gabriel Allman, Talcott Parsons, Carl Deuce, Morton A. Kaplan and several other writers have tried to incorporate or rope in the idea of system model in studies in political science. So political system theory analyzes interactions. Interactions means interactions between several components of society like family, culture, religion, state. Analyzes interactions, structures, different structures, because there are different structures in society. There are in family structure, there are cultural structures, there are the structures of laws, there are structures of language, and several structures are there in the society, and these structures have distinct roles to perform. And they study, the political system theory analyzes interactions between the components and the functions of different components, different institutions, and the processes that has been taking place in the interaction between different components in the society and in political life. So politics involves, according to political system model, politics involves authority, power, physical coercion, that somebody compel others, state compel people. So, and allocation of values, that is distribution of resources for the society. So politics means, politics involves power, Somebody has power over some others. It also involves authority, and everybody do have some kind of power, but not everybody do have the legitimacy to use power. Not all people have the legitimacy to use power. So power, authority, physical coercion, only the state has the legitimacy to use force against citizen. No citizen has authority to use force against other or against the state, but the state has power to use it against citizen. And the allocation of values means allocation of resources for the good of the society. Right. So politics, political processes, political structures are connected, and there are several components, several factors. You should consider all the components of the society when you go for studies in political science. As such, it is called system model or political system. So political system cannot be physically separated from its non-political aspects of the society. That is, political system is too much connected with the system environment, because there are several systems: economic system, cultural system, religious system, legal system, and several systems are there, and political system cannot exist in isolation. It is too much connected with the other systems, right? So what is the meaning of political system then? So there are several meanings attached to political system. For example, a political system is a complete set of institutions. Political system is a complete set of institutions, interest groups such as political parties, trade unions, lobby groups. Then the relationships between these institutions and the political norms and the rules that govern their functions, such as constitution, election laws. So a political system is a complete set of institutions, interest groups, and the relationship between those institutions and the political norms and rules that govern their functions. That is political system. It's a one type of meaning. Another type of meaning is that a political system is comprised of the members of a social organization who are in power. This is another type of meaning. A third type of meaning is that a political system is a system that necessarily has two properties. What are them? A set of interdependent components, different components, and the components have distinct boundaries. That is, religion has a distinct boundary. Religion cannot interfere. Religion cannot perform the function of law. Law cannot perform the function of language. Language cannot perform the function of political parties. That is, different components are in the society, and components have distinct boundaries. And these two components make up the system. And the next type of meaning is that a political system is a concept in which is theoretically regarded as a way of government in which policy is formulated and executed for the society. This is another type of meaning. So there are different types of meaning attached to political system. So political system or system analysis was influenced by the Austrian Canadian biologist Ludwig von Bertalanffy, an American sociologist Talcott Parsons, and these two figures have influenced the development of political system in political science. They have proposed a broad descriptive theory of how various parts and levels interact with each other and make a system. And this idea has been coming to political science for analysis of political life. So the central idea of system analysis is based on the analogy with biology. Just as the heart, the lungs, and the blood function as a whole, so do the components of social and political system. That human body has heart, lungs, and blood, and any problem in the function of any component will affect the entire system. Just like that, political system has several components, and malfunction in any component will affect the working of the entire political system. That's what this political system idea tell you. So when one component changes or comes under stress, the other components will definitely try to adjust with it, but failure in one component will affect the entire system. So system analysis or political system analysis first appeared alongside the behavioral movement in political science in the 1950s. It has developed in the 1950s. So the system theory model was first developed by David Isham, in a sense, System theory model is synonymous with David Easton, a Canadian-born American political scientist who developed this theory in 1953. Easton spent most of his life refining and polishing this concept. He invested the whole of his energy for developing a coherent theory of system in political science. The system theory is an approach to political science analyzing input, that is demand, support, as well output, that is specific decisions and outcomes, and as well as feedback. That is what David Easton said, that system, when you apply system theory in political studies, it is your attempt to understand how input goes to the society, that is system. Input in the sense he meant that demand function and support function, and output means decisions, policy outcomes, and there will be responses to policy outcome from the side of the system, that is general system, that is people will respond to the policy outcome, and government will again revise their decision. So in a sense it's a process, a cyclical process. David Easton was trying to develop some theory about political life. So he argued that what was needed in political science is a general theory of politics, which political science lacked over centuries. This theory can be applied to all types of systems across the world, and he says the approach was developed in the 50s and 60s in the US and in many West European governments, with the exception of Britain. Britain never accepted British political scientists or British scholars never accepted this theory. They have a different idea to politics. So the political science analysis or system analysis was elaborated in two books of David Easton in 1965. They are a framework for political analysis and a systems analysis of political life. These are the two groundbreaking books written by David Easton. And David Easton proposed this theory in 1953 in a famous book, The Political System. And he conceived the political system as integrating all activities through which social policy is formulated and executed for the people. So political system is the policy making process, that is how system formulate policy for the people. Easton defined political behavior as authoritative allocation of values or distribution of rewards in wealth, power and status. That is, he was viewing that politics is that activity in which those in power, that is government, is taking decisions or allocating resources back to the citizen in forms of wealth, power and status, so that the system will function. There will be equilibrium, there will be peace in the society, otherwise the system will collapse. So in doing so, he distinguished his sense of the subject matter of political science. He had a new idea about what is the content of politics, which David Easton believed that the traditional political science theories lack what is the content of political science. When you say economics has a clear content, that is demand and supply side. When you study sociology has a clear idea of its subject matter, that is study of family, right? Just like that, whether it is geography, whether it is anthropology, whether it is philosophy, it has clear subject matter. And David Easton believed that political science for about centuries lacked what is its core content. And he believed that with the rise of system model, political science is trying to develop a clear idea about what is the subject matter of political science. And he believed that it is authoritative allocation of values, how those in authority distribute rewards in wealth, power and status to the people. That is what the subject matter of political science, he argued. So in a sense, he was trying to detach political science from the idea developed by Harold Laswell, who argued that political science is concerned with distribution of power in society. And David Easton has a different idea about what is the kind of subject matter of politics. So Easton's conception of system model emphasizes the linkages between system and its environment, that is input, demand, and support and output, that is policy outcomes. So to answer, system theory is that it is essentially a behavioralist approach to political science that look political system in a highly abstract way, where each system produce its own demands and support, which were altered and changed by behavioral input. Right. So in this way, Easton sought to identify the patterns in political behavior from a very high altitude, that is from a high theoretical points of view. He was trying to identify the subject matter of politics. So politics should, rather than being seen as a collection of individuals who engage in some kind of activity and problems, he tried to see political science through a larger system view, in which your individual behavior is connected with so many other things in the society. So understanding voting behavior, for example, in a particular context, really necessitates how people were voting as part of the broader political system. When you vote, the way in which you vote is connected with the religion you have, the language you have, the region you have, the food culture you have, the costume culture you have. So the system as a whole will affect the way in which you vote in the society. So that is the culture, economy, religion, so many other considerations should be there in order to understand how people cast their votes. So drawing on cybernetics, that was Czech-born American political scientist developed this idea, Carl Deusch. Carl Deusch used system perspectives to view that political system as a communication network, that how people communicate with each other. That is what Carl Deusch believed. And Carl Deusch also developed this system theory in order to understand political behavior. So following Deusch, some political scientists tried to briefly establish communication as the basis of politics. So in how people communicate, how political system communicate, how government communicate with the citizen. That is what the subject matter of politics. That is what Carl Deusch believed, and several other political scientists believed over the years. So system analysis was applied to international relations to explain how forces of international system affect the behavior of states. The American political scientist Morton A. Kaplan delineated types of international systems and their logical consequences in his famous book System and Process in International Politics, that was written in 1957. So according to Kaplan, for example, Cold War rivalry between United States and the Soviet Union brought about a bipolar international environment system that governed much of the two countries' foreign policy and security considerations. That is what Morton A. Kaplan said, believed. So Kaplan applied a system model to study international politics and the behavior of nation states. So in Man, the State and War, that was written in 1959, Kenneth Waltz, a famous theorist in international politics, applied system theory to the study of conflict situations in international politics. But friends, by 1970s, system approach to political science was dropped in to study domestic politics, but system approach to politics is still relevant in the studies of international politics and international relations, but the system approach was dropped in the studies of domestic politics because these are full abstractions, intellectual abstractions, which do not have touch with any reality. That is what the system movement or system model in political science. Now system model is no more used in political analysis in our subject. So that is what the lecture. Friends, if you have any comments or any opinion, please drop a line to the comment box. Stay happy. Thank you.